Hey, I'm going to teach you how to do a medical compression wrap. This wrap is really good to get rid of swelling. So let me start with just the supplies you need to have before you begin. This is a short stretch wrap. There's no elastic in it, and you can see it just has a very short stretch. You need 2 rolls of this at least, depending on the size of the leg you're going to wrap and how high you're going to wrap up the leg. So we have a shorter wrap we're going to put on the foot so we can hug it into the ankle, and a wider wrap that's going to go up to the knee, because in Katie's case we're going to wrap up to the knee. We also need some padding to put around the leg, and you can use foam, you can use a pre-made padding like the soft compress from Juzo, one of my faves, by the way. I hope Juzo is okay with me using their stuff and putting it on my video. If the person has a wound, you also might need wound supplies. And I am going to demonstrate a mild wound on Katie even though she doesn't have one. You also need a cotton stockinette in order to just put this over the skin. And the other thing is, if you have somebody who has very dry skin or is going to wear this wrap for, say, a couple of days before you remove it, and a lot of people do wear it that way, you want to use a cream or a lotion that will stay on the skin that has a pH of 5.5 or below. So Nivea is one, Eucerin is one of my favorite ones. It really protects the skin, and this stockinette keeps that moisturizer and that oil that we put on there from absorbing into the rest of the bandages and protects that skin, keeps it healthy. Okay, so we're going to pretend she has a wound right here. So I'm going to take and I'm going to wear protective gear based on or what I need to wear. So if I need to wear gloves, goggles, mask, you have to make that assessment based on the wound or the leg you're wrapping. So we're going to put a Telfa pad on there to keep the gauze from sticking. Then I'm going to take gauze and wrap it around her leg. Never, ever put tape on fragile skin. So if you're working with somebody who the skin is very thin, they've had multiple wounds on their leg, you don't want to tape that bandage, that dressing, right on the skin. You want to use a gauze and go around the skin, and that way you're not adding that tape, because sometimes when you pull the tape off, you can rip the skin right off their leg. And our goal is to get healing rather than skin damage. So I'm going to place the stockinette, because I already had the cream on before I put the dressing on. Now I'm going to put the stockinette up the leg. Now in many cases I do wrap the toes with gauze. Wrapping the toes is a whole nother video, so I'm not going to cover that with this video. Then I take my padding and I apply it to the leg from the foot up. I want to minimize wrinkles in the padding, but sometimes they happen. So it's okay if you have a few. But I'm overlapping it and I'm just spiraling it up the leg. I need it to stay here long enough for me to get the other layers on. And a little extra padding over your malleoli or over the ankle bones. Ankle bones and malleoli are the same thing. Because Katie informed me not everybody knows that.
They're the little ball things on the sides of your feet.
So, sometimes you do this so long you just forget that people didn't go to PT school like you did. So we're going to place the wrap. First of all, how I hold the wrap is important, because when I put my fingers underneath the tail, I have a better grip on it than when I'm holding it like this, because a little slip and I have nothing to hold on to, because I just lose the wrap. So I always do my best to hold the roll like this. I put put it on the foot. Now, I don't want that end to be on the bottom of her foot because she's going to walk on that all day. And small little wrinkles and ends of things can get uncomfortable. So I go around the foot 3 times because then I have a solid anchor, but I didn't have to use any tape. So then after the 4th time I come up, I'm going around the back of the heel, and I want it to come kind of down to the bottom of the foot, because now I'm going to come up and lock in that back so that there's an overlap, but again it stays smooth and we don't have an edge right underneath the bottom of that heel where she would weight bear. Now I'm going to start a herringbone pattern. So, and we do the herringbone pattern because the leg is bigger up here than it is down here. And so if I don't do a herringbone pattern and I have no elasticity in my wrap, then it will fall off or slide down the leg. So I come down at an angle, then I go flat across the back, then I go up at an angle. Then I go down at the angle, down as I come across and in, and then up. Now I'm keeping a constant pressure on the wrap, but I'm not pulling it tight. I'm not like yanking on it. It's firm. Katie will tell you it's firm. And so I had my tape across here ready to go so that when I get to the end of that roll, I've got something to use. And it is true, you were right, I'm using masking tape. So some people think that that's really weird in healthcare that I'm using masking tape, but I used to use medical tape and people would come back with masking tape on their wraps because they were falling off from the medical tape not holding. So I just switched over and started using masking tape because it's not going to be on their skin. You're taping wrap to wrap, and it keeps it on there. My head's cut off. Okay, not that I'm the important thing here. I'm not. Katie's leg is the important thing. All right, so we're going to start it again with that kind of angle going up there and the angle going up here so that I can maintain that herringbone pattern. As takes a couple of rounds to get it nice and it starts looking all pretty and you go, whew, I did a good job.
You covered up that raw chicken.
Katie thinks her legs look like raw chicken, but I still conned her into being my model. So again, I'm using my hand here to smooth the wrap and to do what I call snugging of the wrap. So I want to smooth that and snug it up so that it's very form-fitting. And she should be feeling a fairly good amount of pressure on her leg.
That I do.
And the way that medical compression wrap works is that as she moves underneath the wrap, she will push fluid out of the leg because it's pushing under, the muscles are pushing up into the wrap, and then the vessels are getting encouraged to do their little peristaltic movement and squeeze that fluid along inside the vessel.
What does peristaltic mean?
Oh, peristaltic means that kind of milking action that you get that moves food along in our guts and moves fluid along in our lymphatic system. So the last layer of wrap that I'm going to put on, I put 3 pieces of tape. Why? Because that person's going to move. I want you to move a lot today, as much or more than you would normally move, so that you are moving that fluid out of there from the pressure of the wrap. The more you move, the more comfortable the wrap becomes, because it will decrease the pressure as the fluid moves out. But as that fluid moves out, your blood vessels can actually dilate or get bigger, and that brings healthy blood in to heal that wound. Thanks for being my model.
Of course.